Hello Apex entrepreneurs and welcome to this video. Before we begin, we have to understand the meaning of the term equity. I know that a lot of you are familiar with what equity means, but for those of you who don't know, equity represents the amount of money that would be returned to a company's shareholders if all of the assets were liquidated and all of the company's debt was paid off. We find equity by using this formula: total assets minus total liabilities. So if a company has 5 million in assets and 2 million in liabilities, then the equity is equal to 3 million. Now let's begin with our indicator, the price to book ratio. This is equal to the price of a share divided by the equity per share. Equity per share is also called the book value per share, and it is equal to the equity divided by the total number of shares. Now, what this means in reality is basically how much money would an investor get per share if we sold the company today. Let's take the example of Apple. The book value of Apple in 2019 was $90.488 billion, and the shares outstanding was 4.443 billion shares. So, to get the book value per share, we take 90.488 divided by 4.443. This gives us $20.37, which means if we wanted to sell Apple right now, for every share you own, you'll get $20.37. The Apple share price on the 17th of January 2020 was $315.24. So this means if you buy a share, you'll pay around $315, but if a company went bankrupt and they wanted to sell it, you'd only get $20.37. Now, if you've already bought some shares in Apple, please don't panic. I'm going to explain why this is fine. And this is where the price-book ratio comes in. We take the share price of $315.24 and divide it by the book value per share of $20.37. This gives us 15.48. This actually means that Apple is worth around 15 times as much as its assets could be sold for. Essentially, the price-to-book ratio, or PB ratio, indicates whether you're paying too much for what would remain if the company went bankrupt immediately. So, a low PB ratio could mean that the stock is undervalued. It could also mean that something is fundamentally wrong with the company, which caused the share price to go down. On the other hand, a high PB ratio could indicate that the company is overvalued. But it could also mean that investors see a great potential in this company. And this might be the case with Apple, which is why you should stop worrying. For example, Tesla's PB ratio in January 2020 was equal to 15, and the price of shares was growing exponentially because investors thought that Tesla had great potential. So, to conclude, the PB ratio is a good indicator and could help us know if a company is undervalued or not. But it is not sufficient. And we have to consider some other factors,